Let's be honest, few celebrity stories in the last decade have been as dramatic, controversial, and downright polarizing as the rise of Meghan Markle after leaving the royal family. When she and Prince Harry stepped away from royal duties and moved to California, the message was clear: they were going to build an independent empire. Huge media deals followed almost immediately, including the headline-grabbing partnership with Netflix through their production company Archwell Productions. At the time, many people believed they were about to become a powerhouse media duo. But fast forward a few years, and the story feels a lot more complicated. The hype hasn't always matched the results, and now critics are openly questioning whether the couple, especially Meghan, overpromised what they could actually deliver in Hollywood. When that Netflix deal first dropped in 2020, it was seen as a massive victory. A former royal and a Hollywood actress partnering with one of the world's biggest streaming platforms? That sounded like a guaranteed hit. The plan was ambitious: documentaries, scripted shows, inspiring content, children's programming, the whole package. But in reality, audiences have seen only a small portion of what was originally promised. The biggest project to come out of the deal so far was the docuseries about Harry and Meghan themselves. It drew massive attention and millions of views, but it also triggered an avalanche of criticism. Many viewers felt the series focused too heavily on revisiting royal conflicts rather than delivering fresh storytelling. And here's where the conversation starts to get uncomfortable for Meghan's critics and supporters alike. In Hollywood, momentum matters. Streaming platforms invest huge amounts of money expecting a steady flow of projects. When that pipeline slows down, questions start flying. Industry analysts have pointed out that several rumored projects connected to Archwell never moved forward. That doesn't necessarily mean failure. Many TV ideas never make it to production, but it does weaken the narrative that Meghan and Harry were about to dominate the entertainment industry. Instead of becoming constant creators, they've sometimes looked more like occasional headline makers. Another thing that complicates the situation is Meghan's brand strategy itself. She has tried to position herself as a mix of activist, storyteller, and lifestyle influencer. That's not unusual in modern celebrity culture, but it does mean expectations get extremely high. When she launched her podcast, Archetypes, the concept was interesting: conversations about stereotypes faced by women. Big celebrities appeared on the show, and it debuted strongly. But the project ended after one season when the partnership with Spotify concluded. That moment fueled a wave of commentary from critics who argued that Meghan's projects often start with huge publicity but struggle to maintain long-term momentum. Now let's talk about the backlash, because it's impossible to separate Meghan's media career from the intense public reaction she generates. Every appearance, every interview, every documentary seems to spark a new round of debates online. Supporters defend her fiercely, saying she's been unfairly targeted by the press for years. Critics, on the other hand, say she often fuels the drama by revisiting royal controversies. That constant tension has turned her into one of the most talked about figures in modern celebrity culture. And while controversy can drive views, it can also make studios and brands cautious about long-term partnerships. There's also a perception problem that Meghan hasn't fully shaken. Some critics argue that many of her biggest media moments still revolve around royal connections rather than independent achievements. That doesn't mean her work lacks value, but it does create a narrative challenge. If the goal after leaving royal life was complete independence, then building a brand that stands entirely on its own becomes crucial. And that's exactly where the scrutiny is strongest, because audiences and industry insiders alike want to see consistent creative output, not just occasional headline-grabbing projects. At the same time, it would be unfair to pretend Meghan has no influence. She still commands enormous global attention. When she speaks, people listen whether they support her or criticize her. Few public figures can generate that level of engagement. From a media perspective, that's powerful currency. The question is whether that attention can consistently translate into successful entertainment projects. Streaming platforms like Netflix operate in a brutally competitive environment where even experienced producers struggle to get shows approved and renewed. So where does that leave Meghan Markle right now? Somewhere between opportunity and skepticism. The initial excitement surrounding her Hollywood era hasn't completely disappeared, but it's definitely evolved. Instead of being seen as an unstoppable new media mogul, she's now viewed through a much more critical lens. Some people believe she's still figuring out how to turn influence into long-term creative success. Others think the expectations placed on her from the beginning were unrealistic. Either way, one thing is certain: the story of Meghan Markle's post-royal career is far from over, and whether people love her or can't stand her, they're definitely still watching.